the registrar, university librarian, provost of the College of Medicine, dean faculty of science, deans of other faculties, the postgraduate school and our students, directors of institutes and centers, heads of departments, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. The 415th University of Ibadan inaugural lecture will be delivered by Professor Ayodele of the Department of Botany on behalf of the Faculty of Science. Born on 31st December 1962 to late Mr. Samuel Ayodele Abegunde and Mrs. Eunice Adekumi Ayodele Abegunde of Okelisa in Akure South Local Government Area of Ondo State, Professor Emmanuel Ayodele had his primary school education at St. William's Cali Primary School, Ibadan, between 1968 and 1974, and his secondary school education at Christ High School, Oleyo, Ibadan, between 1974 and 1979. He was offered admission to the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, in 1981 to read botany and graduated in 1985. Thereafter, he participated in the National Youth Service Corps scheme as the coordinator of the Young Catholic Students YCS of the Catholic Archdiocese of Maiduguri in Borno State in all secondary schools within the diocese between August 1985 and July 1986. He obtained his MSc and PhD degrees in plant taxonomy and systematics from the University of Lagos, Akoka, Lagos, in 1990 and 2000 respectively. Prior to his service in this university, Professor Ayodele was a class teacher with the Lagos State Teaching Service between August 1987 and 1992, when he joined the Ogun State University, now Olabisi Onabanjo University, Agoiwoye, as an assistant lecturer in the Department of Biological Sciences. He resigned this appointment in December 1995 and joined the services of the University of Ibadan, with effect from 2nd January 1996, also as an assistant lecturer in the then Department of Botany and Microbiology. He was promoted to lecturer 2, 1st October 1998, lecturer 1, 1st October 2001, senior lecturer 1st October 2004, reader 1st October 2007, and professor 1st October 2010. He has over 60 publications, including a book. He has successfully supervised 4 PhD theses in plant taxonomy and systematics, over 30 MSc dissertations, and many BSc students projects. Within this university, Professor Ayodele has served in various capacities, including member of Senate between 1998 and 2010 and 2012 till date, representative of Senate on the University Housing Loan Committee 2015 to 2016, representative of congregation on the board of the staff school 2007 to 2009, member University Study Curriculum Committee 2015 to 2016, serving member of the Biodiversity Committee, chairman University of Ibadan staff school, Parents Teachers Association 2012 to 2016, representative of the Faculty of Science on other faculty boards, sub-dean Biological and Earth Sciences, Faculty of Science between 2002 and 2004, member Zoological Garden Finance Committee in 2015 to date, coordinator Botany Unit, Department of Botany and Microbiology between 2009 and 2010, Director, University of Ibadan Botanical Gardens, 2004 to 2014. Curator, University of Ibadan Herbarium, between 1996 and 2016. And the current head of the Department of Botany. He is also a two-time awardee of the University of Ibadan Senate Research Grant, 1994-95 and 2006. Outside the university, Professor Ayodele has served as external examiner to the University of Lagos, Akoka, Lagos, between 2013 and 2016. Lagos State University, Ojo, Lagos, 2015 to date. Olabisi Onabanjo University, Agowe, 2015 to date. And Federal University, Oye-Ekiti, in 2017. He recently participated as a member of the accreditation team to a federal university in the southeastern part of the country. He is revered to many journals, both within and outside Nigeria, including the Nigerian Journal of Botany, Botanical Journal of the Linnean Society, London, and Ferris Repertorium, Germany. He is on the editorial advisory board of the Journal of Science Research, editorial board member of the Journal of Herbal Practice and Technology, and consulting editor for the Journal of Agriculture and Technology. Professor Ayodele won the Visiting Scholar Fellowship of the Third World Academy of Sciences, Chinese Academy of Sciences, twice, to Kunming Institute of Botany, Kunming in China in 2006, and the Institute of Botany, Beijing, China in 2011. He is a member of the International Association of Plant Taxonomists, IAPT, Botanical Society of Nigeria, BOSON, Science Association of Nigeria, SAN, and Nigerian Fish Society, and the African Ethnobotany Network, AEN. At the church level, he is the Grand Knight, Ibadan Sub-Council of the Order of the Knights of St. Mulumba, Nigeria, and the Parish Pastoral Council Chairman of St. Lawrence Catholic Church, Lasoku, Apata, Ibadan. Professor Abiodun Emmanuel Ayodele is married to Mrs. Abiola Bimpe Ayodele, and the marriage is blessed with children. And I call on Professor Ayodele to deliver his lecture titled Plant Taxonomy, Organizing the Diversity of Nature.
The Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Deputy Vice Chancellor Research, Innovation and Strategic Partnerships, the Registrar, Librarian, Provost of the College of Medicine, Dean of the Faculty of Science, Dean of the Postgraduate School, Deans of other faculties and of students, Directors of institutes, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Before the existence of man, God, our Creator, had been a taxonomist, organized into three persons: God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, which each having specific but interconnected duties. This is evident in the phrase, "Let us make," used by God in any creation event. In the beginning, when God began to create the heavens and the earth, God organized his creation into 6 specific units called days, creating a set per day. He would later organize the components of each day into subgroups and smaller groups, and into the smallest groups that can be easily comprehended by man, the custodian of all living things created. What do all this add up to? That God himself is a lover of order. He is not a God of chaos. God could as well have created all that he wanted at once. God is therefore a taxonomist, and taxonomists take the image of God by creating order from chaos. Consequently, understanding the world of organisms around us requires the ordering of the multitude of forms into some sort of rational system. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, with this opening remark, I welcome you to the 415th inaugural lecture and the third in the series from the Faculty of Science for the current session. It is indeed a privilege and honor for me. I am very grateful to the Almighty God, the Vice Chancellor and his administration, the Dean of Science, and the Faculty of Science on whose behalf I delivered this undoubtedly very unique inaugural lecture. The first inaugural lecture of the new Department of Botany, after its split from the then Department of Botany and Microbiology in 2010, was delivered by the first head of department, Professor A.C. Odebode, in 2016. This is the second from the same department, and it's also been delivered by the second head of department, my humble self. Prior to Professor Odebode's inaugural lecture, 3 eminent botanists from the old Department of Botany had given theirs. Professor B.A. Osho on fungi and mankind in 1981, Professor A. Egunyomi on Moses and mankind in 1993, Professor O. Oshonubi on botany beyond conventional agriculture in 1999. However, this is the first time a plant taxonomist will stand before this audience for an inaugural lecture since the establishment of the university in 1948, with botany as one of the foundation departments. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I do not wish to bore this audience with the different definitions of botany by different authors. Simply put, it is the study of plants. And botanists study plants, not flowers. Flowers are just organs on the plant, and not all plants have flowers. Egunyomi 1993 and Ogundipe 2005 reported an anecdote narrated by Professor W.W. Sanford of the then University of Ife. A schoolboy playing with his schoolmates was asked, "What does your father do?" The boy replied, "He's a botanist." Bewildered, his friend asked, "What does that mean?" The boy, trying to justify the father's profession, said, "Oh, he plays with flowers." That innocent answer of the boy years back has transformed into another erroneous belief that botanists are herbalists. This is because when a botanist introduces himself to anyone, the next remark will be a request for recipes used for the treatment of or cure of one ailment or the other. Botany is divided into disciplines. Several disciplines such as morphology, anatomy, physiology, etc. Emerging areas in botany include the environmental and forensic botany, as well as molecular systematics. The relevance of botany as a basic science is in the application of its results to the sustenance of life. Stressing the importance of botany to human life, Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States of America, stated, and I quote, "Botany I rank with the most valuable sciences, whether we consider its subjects as furnishing the principal subsistence of life to man and beast, delicious varieties for our tables, refreshments from our orchards, the adornment of our flower borders, shade and perfume of our groves, materials for our buildings, or medications for our bodies," unquote. Apart from being very crucial to our existence, plants even control our climate and are the major indices of climate change. There are different types of plants, the non-flowering and the flowering, the seed and the seedless, the green and the non-green, the vascular and the non-vascular, depending on the criterion for classification. The green, flowering, vascular, and seed plants are the spermatophytes consisting of gymnosperms and angiosperms. Generally, many members of the angiosperms have conspicuous flowers and are much appreciated by man. Their dominance of the earth today is due to their adaptive features, enabling them to grow in different parts of the world and in different forms, sizes, as well as in different habitats. Angiosperms are regarded as the most successful groups of plants in the whole of the plant kingdom. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the organization of angiosperms, that is the flowering plants, into comprehensible groups, enabling easy access to each of them, is the subject matter of today's inaugural lecture. My first exposure to plant taxonomy was in Botany 303 and Angiosperm taxonomy in the then University of Ife, Ile-Ife in 1984 with Professor Omotoye Olorode. In his characteristic manner, if we could not identify plants, especially common ones, he would give a lecture within a lecture as to the reason why we should go back to our villages to learn about plants in our environment. It was therefore a Herculean task passing that course. Thereafter, I prayed never to have anything to do with plant taxonomy again. When I was to seek admission into the University of Lagos for my master's program, the closest to my desired discipline, which was plant anatomy, was plant taxonomy. As there was no plant anatomist then in the department, I was confronted with my enemy once again. Being desperately in need of the admission, I had to apply and consequently register for the program upon admission. As fate would have it, I met my mentor, Professor J.D. Olokurejo, as my supervisor, who subsequently transcribed the genes for this discipline into me. To God be the glory, here I am today, delivering this lecture as a professor in a supposedly dry and difficult but interesting field of science, chaos and order. In the early Greek genealogy of the deities, according to Ekagwere, 1992, the eldest of all the gods was called Chaos. In contemporary times, our concept of the word chaos is somewhat different, and it's largely due to the Roman poet Ovid. More explicitly, chaos now symbolizes utter irregularity or confusion. Many people run away from or try to avoid chaos, but according to this erudite mathematician, a better attitude towards chaos is to try to understand or even dominate chaos through knowing how to cope with it or utilize some of its consequences. A plant taxonomist attempts to create order from extensive diversity of plants in the world. Order in the present context, and as Ukoli 1975 implied, means the identification and the systematic arrangement of variety of plants into properly defined levels of ranks in a hierarchy. Botanists are the favorites of God because they are the ones to whom God entrusted the first living creatures, that is, the plants. After the creation of light, the waters, and the dry land, God created vegetation. God said, and I quote, "Let the earth produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants, fruit trees bearing fruits with seed, each according to its kind upon the earth. And so it was. God saw that it was good." Unquote. That was on the third day. God did not create any animal until the fifth day. So the creation of plants predated that of animals and man. The plants were to give life of God to animals. We humans are the highest of these animals in hierarchy, and I cannot survive without the plants. Biodiversity has been defined as variability among living organisms from all sources, including terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems, and the ecological complexes of which they are part. It also includes the diversity within and between species and of ecosystems. As noted earlier, plant form is diverse. The world's smallest flowering plant is the duckweed, warfare of the family Lemnaceae, a floating aquatic plant of about 2 mm wide and about the size of a rice grain, while the largest and heaviest of all living plants are the giant sequoias, Sequoiadendron giganteum, found in California's National Park, United States of America. This plant weighs about 2,500 metric tons, equivalent to the weight of about 40,000 people. Campbell et al., 2008. Plant taxonomy or plant systematics deals with the knowledge of the wide variety and complexity of plants, the sources of these variations, and the understanding of the variation patterns, with a view to using these to classify the plants, identify them, and give them names. According to the report of the Royal Botanic Gardens Kew in its global assessment of world flora, there are presently over 390,400 flowering plants in the world, excluding algae, mosses, liverworts, and hornworts, which are reported to be close to about 40,000. The report also recorded an astonishing 2,034 new plant species discovered in 2015 alone. Many more are yet to be discovered, while many will never be discovered with the alarming rate of habitat loss, climate change, and invasiveness of other species, especially in the tropics. It is therefore disheartening to note that while aggressive floristic studies are going on in the world, especially in Europe, America, and Asia, Africa in general and Nigeria in particular are lagging behind. Most records of our flora today in Nigeria were derived from the collections of early explorers and bequeathed to us by our colonial masters. Their efforts as plant collectors in West Africa often resulted in many of them paying the supreme sacrifice, death. As an example, the Frenchman Baron Palissot de Beauvais, the first botanist to visit Nigeria, was a member of an expedition led by Captain Landolph, which sailed from Rochefort on 17th July 1786 and reached Warri exactly 4 months later. The expenditure started with 300 men, but 250 of them died within the first 5 months. Such was the terrible cost of exploration in West Africa in those days. Another striking and pitiable example is that of David Douglas. Douglas, an indomitable Scottish botanist, led many collecting trips to North America. He was attacked by Native American Indian bears, suffered all sorts of diseases, and he twice had to eat his horse to avoid starvation. If we must fully harness the potentials of plants in Nigeria, we need to promote intensive floristic studies from time to time to enable us keep pace with the diversity among them. We will then be in position to break the diversity of plants into comprehensible groups based on the similarities and differences of characters among members of each group. This ordering of plants into groups is called classification. Having classified the plants, any unknown plant can be assigned to any of the previous groups created or allotted to a new group if it does not fit into any existing group. This is done by comparing the characteristics of the unknown plant with those of different groups. This is called identification. Finally, there must be a means of communication on any plant in any of the groups by attaching a name to it. This is the naming of plants or nomenclature. This is why some authors define plant taxonomy as the study of classification, identification, and nomenclature, or as the study of the principles and practice of classification. Plant taxonomy is an empirical science. It is basic to and at the same time central to other sciences. It synthesizes information from various disciplines such as anatomy, cytology, ecology, and recently molecular studies. Taxonomy in turn gives back the synthesized information to these disciplines by providing the names and necessary information on the plants in question, figure 1. Classification, identification, and the naming of plants. It is appropriate here to introduce you to the activities of the plant taxonomist. This is with the aim of changing the mindset of many who believe that taxonomy is all about names of organisms. I have tried to find out from my students who do not signify interest in plant taxonomy as to the reasons for their attitude. Their usual reaction is, am I expected to know and keep all names of plants in my brain as if I have nothing other to do? My answer has always been that taxonomy is not only about botanical names, and there are different methods of identification which do not entail cramming of names. Actually, not only plant taxonomists can provide the names of plants. Others, especially field workers, who are not even scientists, do and effectively too. But they do this by overall familiarity with the plants they identify. They may lack the necessary skills when confronted with entirely new plants, especially from new areas. This is where the taxonomist comes in, especially in the skilled use of the key, a major instrument of identification. An example is shown in Table 1. Providing names is just an aspect of a taxonomist's duty, and many processes are involved before the names are provided. Plant classification is hierarchical, that is organized from the lowest unit, it is the species, to the all-embracing unit, the kingdom. The essence of this hierarchical structure is to enable us to break the diversity of nature into easily manageable groups and create order from chaos. Classification is a basic occupation of man. As Upwood puts it, the urge to classify is a fundamental human instinct, like the predisposition to sin. It accompanies us into the world at birth and stays with us to the end. Early formal classifications made use of few characters and were done based on the convenience of the classifier. This was said to be artificial. Subsequently, classification became natural with the input of large amount of characters. Currently, phylogenetic classification makes use of characters which reflect evolutionary connection of the classified with the ancestor. The geneticist, ecologist, chemist, the microbiologist, the zoologist, and the orthodox medical practitioner who has a flair for herbal medicine, and anyone who has one thing or the other to do with plants must know the names of plants involved. Let me also state that our Vice Chancellor, a geophysicist and an admirer of plants, needs to know the names of plants in his garden. A plant can be identified by simply noting that it belongs to the genus Cassia or family Leguminosae if it shares most of the characteristics with members of that group. This is sometimes confused with the name of the plant or the nomenclature. Identification is a skilled process which often requires facilities such as the herbarium, the horticultural, and the botanical gardens for confirming the identity of plants in question. Identification can be done by comparing the unknown plant with drawings in books, illustrations, and photographs of already identified plants. However, these could be misleading and in fact have led to wrong identifications because they hardly capture the range of variation inherent in the plants. While some of these windows of identification may be employed by anybody, only trained and well-skilled taxonomists can efficiently use the keys and the herbarium for the identification of plants. Nomenclature is the assigning of names to plants governed by a set of rules or codes. A plant's name is a reference and a means of effective communication about the plant. Every available information about the plant is linked to its name. Non-living objects also have names. A plant's name, therefore, is the key to its literature, Van Steen's 1957. Names of plants are not abstract, as most people believe. Even in our different cultures, names of persons have meanings. In Yoruba land, for example, Abiodun, Abosede, Alaba, Idowu, Oyajide, Ige, Olayinka all have reasons for being attached to a person. The names are tied to events, seasons, traditional beliefs, among others. In the same manner, plant names are tied to names of people, e.g., Bafia Latiloi, after M.G. Latilo, Adansonia digitata, after Adansin, Parkia by Globosa, after Mongo Park, Linear, after Linnaeus, Vannonia, Amygdalinan, after Vernon, etc. Now let's go on a simple exercise to form the name of a plant from your own name. You may need a piece of paper and a biro. To form a generic name from your surname, add A if the name ends in a vowel. Add IA if your name ends in a consonant. Add EA if it ends in A. Add A if it ends in ER. And if it ends in ER, if it ends in US, remove the US and add A. Now, let us form a specific epithet, that is the second plant name, from your first name. Add I if the name ends in a vowel. Add II if it ends in a consonant, and add E if it ends in A. Now, if we have done that, let us cross-check if Olayinka Idowu conforms to the rules above. Names of plants may be also tied to places, e.g. Madagascarensis from Madagascar, Mexicana from Mexico, Nigerica from Nigeria, Aspilia africana from Africa, or to attributes of the plant, e.g. Portulaca oleracea, which is a milk provider, Anacardium occidentale, the heart-shaped fruits of the cashew, colors of flowers such as Tabebua rosea, a rose or pink color, or the hairiness of the body such as the Persicaria tomentosa, which is woolly. As the importance of names cannot be overemphasized, naming a plant correctly is very crucial to human activities and should not be treated with levity. There are rules governing the giving and application of names to taxa. These rules are enshrined in the International Code for the Nomenclature of Algae, Fungi, and Plants. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, may I sound a note of caution? It is expedient that we endeavor to ascertain the correct name of any plant before use. Our herbal practitioners, especially the modern ones, are enjoined to confirm the names of their plants from competent plant taxonomists, recognized herbarium, and botanical gardens. They should not obtain recipes from any source, and armed with the local names, purchase such plants from the local markets. There are a few texts containing translations of botanical names to some Nigerian languages. While these texts are useful, they are not means of plant identification. The same local name may refer to 2 or more different plants, and the same plant may bear different names in different dialects. E.g., Ogbogbo is Deuterium microcarpum and Deuterium senegalense. Ogbolo is Cissus popolni and Greyware mollis. Ogon is a generic Yoruba name for about 5 Combretum species. Consequently, the collector has to be sure of the Yoruba specific epithet, such as Ogon dudu, Combretum bracteatum, Ogon ebule, also Ogon pupa, Combretum resmosum, etc., to ascertain which Ogon to collect and use. Although Ishakpa is commonly known as Hibiscus sabdarifa, a different species, Hibiscus asper, is also called Ishakpa in Ikale, Ondo State. Many species of cedar are called Ishekutu, the Yoruba generic name, but may be distinguished by the Yoruba specific epithet Ishekutu dudu, Cedar capinifolia in our dialect, Ishekutu pupa, Cedar rhombidifolia in Ondo dialect. Interestingly, Ishekutu dudu in another dialect also refers to Cedar capinifolia. In my role as the curator of the University of Ibadan Herbarium, I have encountered several cases of researchers who have inadvertently worked on wrongly identified plants, or those who did not get the correct name of their plants before proceeding with their research work. The consequences of this to human health are better imagined. Let me therefore re-emphasize the rule that the name of plants is primary to any investigation. Enforcing this rule has been a running battle between us, the staff of the herbarium, and researchers who bring plants for identification and authentication after the conclusion of the investigation of such plants. Moreover, there are many botanical names in the country and elsewhere inundated with wrong identifications of plants. Professor Eguyomi and I were so worried at the time that we had to call the attention of editors of some journals to this dangerous trend and advise that they request for proof of correct identification of plants before publication. Some newspaper publications are worst offenders. A critical example is the case of some colleagues who claim to have worked on Visculabum in southwestern Nigeria, a plant mainly of the temperate regions of the world. This highly medicinal plant is called Mistuto in English, Afuma in English and in the Yoruba, Abosi in Igbo, and Kaushi in Hausa. It is a hemiparasite on so many trees. Our home Mistutos in Nigeria belong to 6 genera: Aegilanthus, Englarina globimetula, Elixanthera fragmentera, and Tapinanthus. The most common genera are Tapinanthus and Aegilanthus. There are about 15 species in this genera documented for Nigeria. However, the most common species is Tapinanthus banguensis, which many people collect in southwestern Nigeria and call Viscum harbor. Visculabum, apart from Europe, is restricted to the Atlas Mountains of eastern Nigeria. The genus Viscum is represented by over 100 species, many of which are common in the eastern, northern, and southern parts of Africa. Although Viscum species have been recorded from West Africa, only Viscum conguensis has been recorded in southern Nigeria. In the northern part of the country, Aegilanthus dodoniferius is often erroneously called Tapinanthus by some researchers. Some researchers have published papers with names of foreign bryophytes, particularly mosses and liverworts, which they claimed were collected from southwestern Nigeria. Eguyomi personal communication. Modern taxonomy versus folk taxonomy. Like other tribes, Yoruba people have names for almost all plants in their environment. Even alien plants are provided with names, especially if and when they find relevance for them, e.g., mongoro for mango, that's Mangifera indica, and kaju for cashew, and Acadium occidentale. The Benin name for Entadruphragma cylindricum is obinescent, meaning ishangel. To what extent does our folk taxonomy correspond with the modern taxonomy, asked Oloride 1985? To a large extent, I would say. And there seems to be a considerable scientific system and a wealth of description in many of the names and their meanings. And their meaning, once known, may be definitely helpful in their identification. Modern taxonomy has formal categories into which plants are allotted. In formal taxonomy, the name of species which is the lowest unit, is a binomial, that is 2, combining the generic name and the specific epithet. Plant names in folk taxonomy often, but not always, correspond to this binomial rule. Thus, we may have Ayodele funfun, Albizia gumifera, Ayodele oro, Albizia glaberrima, with Ayodele serving as the generic name and funfun or oro serving as the specific epithet, telling us the type of Ayodele. The herbarium and plant taxonomy. Early taxonomy practices were carried out to a large extent in the herbarium and laboratory. A herbarium is a collection of dried, poisoned, and well-preserved plant specimens mounted on sheets and arranged in a systematic order for references, figures 3 to 10. Some specimens are types or typical specimens of species or infraspecific taxa. Herbaria also preserve records of changes in vegetation. Information derived from herbaria enable us to determine which plants had become extinct at a particular time in a particular geographical area. Specimens preserved in a herbarium may represent the only available record of the plant's original distribution. An example of this record is that of the cocaine plant, Erythroxylon coca, previously ubiquitous on this campus, especially in the botanical gardens, until about middle 1980s. As there is no trace of the plant again on campus, it is of utmost importance that collections of this plant in the herbarium serves as the only source of materials for study in this part of Nigeria. Furthermore, scientists use herbaria to preserve voucher specimens. These are representative samples of plants used in particular studies to certify the identity and determine precisely the source of their data. It is thus mandatory for every researcher to deposit a voucher specimen in a recognized herbarium to verify the identity of the plant at any time. This should be done at the commencement of the work. The voucher specimen is then allocated a number after preparing it for incorporation into the herbarium. This is called the voucher number. Such number is peculiar to that specimen and to the researcher and cannot be given to any other plant or person. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, if there is any avenue through which I have encountered most people in this university, it is through the services provided them in the University of Ibadan Herbarium in the Department of Botany. The Department of Botany of this university has a teaching herbarium for reference and identification purposes, currently numbering about 27,000 specimens. It is one of the leading institution-based herbaria in Africa. Of the 208 Nigerian families of vascular plants, this herbarium has representatives of 191. The number of species in it is about 3,400, and about 2,750 are Nigerian species, and 650 species from other countries. Each species is usually represented by several specimens from different places, which gives an idea of variation. There are also collections of the bryophytes of Nigeria, courtesy Professor Adeyemi Egunyomi. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the following incidents would drive home the usefulness of our herbarium in the identification of plant specimens. Some years ago, we had a visitor from the northern part of the country who was directed to us for the identification of a very important and potent medicinal plant common in that area, but unknown to them scientifically. The person came on the verge of taking the plant to Kew Herbarium in England for identification. The plant was eventually identified, thus saving him a huge financial expenditure in terms of foreign exchange. On another occasion, a colleague from the University College Hospital brought a plant to us. A patient in coma in the ward had taken a decoction of that plant for an illness, but unfortunately, the decoction knocked him or her out. The expectation of our colleague from UCH was that knowing the identity of the plant will assist them in sourcing information on its bioactive chemical constituents, which will guide them in the handling of the case. The plant was eventually identified and found to be aromatic, containing essential oils. The hypothesis then was that the high dosage of the essential oils would have been responsible for the state of the patient. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, permit me to highlight the significance of and role of the botanical gardens in plant taxonomy. Plant taxonomic work flourishes with the botanical gardens as it does with the herbarium. In fact, most of the leading botanical gardens in the world all have herbaria attached to them in situ. Botanical gardens function as a veritable means of identification of plants. This is due to the fact that plants in the gardens have labels. With the labels, unknown plants can be merged with those in the gardens to get their names and sometimes their additional information about them. Botanical gardens are also important in healthcare delivery. Natural environments such as parks, forests, reserves, and botanical gardens are known to be nature's doctor. Nature and healing are closely linked, even from ancient times. The Time magazine of 26 July 2016 reported that Japanese researchers discovered that trees emit phytoncides, the aroma of the forest produced to help protect plants from harmful insects and germs that can act similarly to aromatherapy, that is, a practice of using natural oils extracted from flowers, bark, stems, leaves, roots, or other parts of the plant to enhance psychological and physical well-being. Ulrich, 1984, noted that patients recovering from gallbladder removal surgery in a room with a view of natural scene recovered faster and took fewer pain medications than patients in a room with a view of brick wall. Moreover, Mars et al. 2006 reported a positive association between greenness and self-reported health. An analysis of the health records of 345,000 people showed that those living in greener areas were less likely to be diagnosed with 15 out of the 24 health outcomes examined, especially anxiety and depression. In another study in Tokyo, Takona et al. 2002 found a positive association between survival rate among senior citizens and access to walkable green space. The relationship between trees and human health has been found to be highly positively correlated. As an example, Donovan et al. 2013 reported that the loss of trees to the emerald ash borer in the United States of America from 1990 to 2007 increased mortality related to cardiovascular and lower respiratory tract illness. Thus, there is increasing evidence that natural environment provides major public benefits. This lecture is therefore a clarion call to our colleagues from the College of Medicine and those in social works and other related units in the university and elsewhere to educate and encourage their patients to visit the Botanical Gardens, University of Ibadan from time to time. The words of Bremian, 1971, are quite relevant on this, and I quote, "In the struggle to keep up with the fast pace of business affairs today, we deprive ourselves of the beauty, the joy, the refreshment, the sort of recreation that abounds in the many gardens of God all about us. After a visit in one of these gardens, we can return to our homes and our work, feeling like we have a new lease on life, refreshed and renewed mentally and physically," unquote. Many individuals have at one time or the other confirmed that they drew inspiration from the quietness of the UI Botanical Gardens during their writings and meditations. Currently, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the best pounded yam accompanied with fresh vegetables, pomo and fresh wine, palm wine, can only be obtained from our garden. And apart from these personal emoluments, recent studies have shown that the Botanical Garden provides an excellent ambience for those recuperating from sickness. Why is the foregoing exposition about the UI Botanical Gardens necessary in this lecture? It's an attempt to draw our attention as a plant taxonomist who attempted for about 10 years as director-curator to put our garden on the pedestal of international recognition. I got to the Botanical Garden as curator when many regarded it as a bush, a monumental waste. With the limited available resources at our disposal, we have given the garden a facelift. However, for it to be fully exploited for the desired benefits, a perimeter fence is required urgently, and an injection of funds should be a priority. The garden definitely requires the university's interest and presence at this crucial time, so that the objectives for establishing it can be realized. The Botanical Gardens of this university was conceived to cover over 100 acres. Over the years, about 30 acres have been taken over by the past administrations and ceded to other units of the institution. Of the 70 acres earlier developed, more than 30 acres have been destroyed in the course of the construction of the new road linking the university with Ajibode, which has opened a large area for encroachment into the gardens. My contributions to plant taxonomy and systematics. Taxonomics makes use of various characters for the assessment of taxa Data may be derived from morphology, that is the gross appearance of plants, either obtained with the naked eye or obtained with the use of the light microscope. More detailed microscopic structures of the organs can also be obtained using the scanning electron microscope or the transmission electron microscope. Data may also be sourced from the cell structure, including the chromosome morphology and behavior, or from the chemicals present in the plants, structure and morphology of the pollen grains, or from internal structure of the organs. Modern systematic research has focused on the genetic material, the DNA, for the elucidation of evolutionary relationships among plants, the habitat of the plant, the habit, the community, geographical spread, ecology, and social dynamics of the plants all provide data for plant taxonomic study. This is why a taxonomist is often referred to as a jack of all disciplines, but master of none. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I started the revision of the family Polygonaceae when little was known about the taxon in Nigeria. Collections were made from several parts of Nigeria, including the Mabile Plateau. Morphological markers employed elucidated the taxonomic relationships among and within taxa in this family. Of particular importance was the phenomenon of distyling, recorded and reported for the first time in Persicaria salicifolia. This variation in style length is in relation to the stamens, proved to be altitude dependent and found to be genetically fused. Consequently, that species was split into two subspecies, Persicaria salicifolia, subspecies salicifolia, figure 7, and Persicaria salicifolia, subspecies mambilensis, named after Mambila Plateau in northern Nigeria, where it was discovered and collected for the first time. This subspecies, known to science for the first time, has been validly published and now a recognized taxon within the Polygonaceae. While Hutchinson and Dazier recognized 5 genera and 15 species for West Africa, Ayodele and Olukodejo 2006 documented 8 genera and 18 taxa, including one introduced taxon for the sub-region. Further analysis of this family has resulted into a new species tentatively referred to as Persicaria nigerica, and it is being prepared for publication. The taxonomic importance of pollen morphology and leaf epidermal characters in the identification and delimitation of species in the Polygonaceae have also been reported. Extensive collections of the specimens of the tribe Greyway were done by my former PhD student between 2009 and 2016, with a view to revising the tribe in Nigeria. The taxonomic importance of anatomical characters, foliar epidermal characters, and pollen characters, as well as distribution of taxa in the tribe, were well expressed. The revision also added 2 new species of Greyware, Greyware shokefunine and Greyware newbusiana, known to science for the first time. Both are being processed for publication. Mistletoes belong to the family Laurantaceae. The plants are mainly hemiparasites, as said before, and they grow on tree branches or area plants of the host plants, such as kola nut, cocoa, guava, and many others. There have been problems of misidentification and adulteration in medicinal remedies. As I said earlier on, many authors and collectors often refer to West African mistletoes as Viscum habum. In order to ascertain and describe the species of this family, Laurantaceae in Nigeria, my first PhD student, Dr. Jamilat Ibrahim, embarked on the revision of this family. A total of 136 specimens were collected during the field trips from 29 locations in 14 states of Nigeria. Together with herbarium collections in Nigeria, we documented 6 genera and 15 species of mistletoes in Nigeria. This has been a reference work for the identification of mistletoes in Nigeria, with full description of the taxon and a detailed picture database for them. This work has thus resolved the issue of our local mistletoes, the many different types, and the difference between them and Viscum habum. The taxonomic significance of leaf epidermal characters and chemical characters in the Laurantaceae have been explored for their identification. Furthermore, Ibrahim 2012 and Nefutoye et al. 2010 have shown that host plants on which mistletoes grow can influence the antibacterial activity of the plants. We have also been able to ascertain that Tapinanthus is host-specific and that the chemical constituents found in them are dependent on their hosts. This is why some herbal practitioners believe that the type of host will influence the type of disease the Tapinanthus species will be used to treat. Adodo, 2002, attested to the potency of mistletoes collected from specific hosts for the treatment of specific diseases. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, not many of my audience today know beyond 2 cultivated species of kola nut, Kola acuminata obiabata and Kola nitida obigbanja. Some may probably know Kola millennium obiedu. However, apart from the first 2 species, Kola versicolata and Kola anomala produce edible seeds. The 4 species are so much similar that sometimes, in the absence of fruits, many collectors in the wild run into problems distinguishing one from another. Consequently, the adulteration of the leaves in herbal recipes. Generally, there are about 125 species of kola, mainly in the regions of Africa. 31 species were documented for Nigeria. Most of the Nigerian species are found in the forests of Cross River State. A pathetic realization from our study of kola species in Nigeria is that most of them are now threatened and a few endangered. Collection trips are still ongoing to ascertain if a few are already extinct or not. But one good news is that using the 21 species collected from various parts of Nigeria, we have provided a detailed micromorphological data of the pollens, leaf surface, and petiole to produce reliable taxonomic keys to aid identification of species and avoid adulteration in drugs. The calabash family Bagnonaceae contains many ornamental shrubs and trees. Few species such as Kaigelia africana, Pandoro, Crescentia cujete, the calabash or Igba, and Nuboldia levis, Igiakuku, are well known for their cultural and medicinal uses. A study of the family in Nigeria documented 12 species in Nigeria, with most of the species in the eastern, western, and central parts of Nigeria. Based on pollen morphology, leaf epidermal characters, and molecular phylogenetic analysis of the taxa, we have suggested that Tecoman and Tabebua be separated from Macamia, Niboldia, Spatodia, and Stereospermum. Their earlier genera were retained within the tribe Tecomae, while we proposed the creation of a new tribe, Spatodiae, to accommodate the latter genera, Ugbabe 2015. Apart from these revisions, I have worked on many other West African taxa which contain medicinal plants. This was with a view to assessing characters for the understanding of taxonomic relationships and using these to differentiate the medicinal ones from others, and thus avoid adulteration even when vegetative fragments are available. Some of these taxa include the Myrtaceae, Dihalium, Syncephalum, Plumbago, Iptis, Abdizia, etc. In all these studies, the different types of epidermal cells and arrangements on the leaf surfaces, trichome types, stomata types, as well as cell inclusions, have enabled the recognition and delimitation of these taxa. I have extended my taxonomy research to ethnobotanical surveys of medicinal plants used for the treatment of tuberculosis, diabetes, and the management of fertility problems, as well as on the medicinal importance of some vegetables in southwestern Nigeria. Part of my collaboratory research had been done with colleagues in the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine by introducing, identifying, and providing information on plants of veterinary importance. Some of such plants have been screened and found effective in the treatment of diseases both in animals and man. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I have been involved in many environmental impact assessment studies in different parts of this country. While these studies have provided me with data on Nigerian vegetation to enhance the teaching of students, it has brought to the fore the extent of damage or degradation and deforestation that have occurred in our country. Some hitherto refuge of endemic plants have been cleared for the establishment of industries. Our field works in the Niger Delta showed the threat to the mangrove species and the vegetation at the fringes of the rivers due to oil pollution. Fire and grazing still remain the bane of the savanna, leading to loss of most valuable savanna species. Secondary forests have gradually replaced the primary forests of the southeastern areas of the country. God designed these green plants to give us life. The consequences are grave for us and the coming generations if out of our negligence and greed we destroy these natural resources. Future of plant taxonomy studies in Nigeria. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, without sounding pessimistic, I dare say that the future is scary. Soladoye also painted a gloomy picture for taxonomy in Nigeria. Despite the fact that foreigners, especially Europeans, introduced modern taxonomy in Nigeria and played a significant role in it till the end of the second half of the 20th century. Significant role in it, so taxonomy has not gone beyond the exploratory phase in Nigeria. The flora still in use today were compiled by these foreigners, and it is a shame that the flora of Nigeria remains incomplete up to now. Botanical exploration throughout the country has ceased, while the slow pace of taxonomic inventory is inversely proportional to the degradation of the environment on the account of increased population pressure on natural resources and the quest for technological development, among other factors. There is also the inadequacy of herbarium, botanical gardens, teaching facilities, particularly in the private institutions and in some public universities, and the depth of taxonomists in the country. These have resulted in a low output of results from floristic studies. Most of the private universities do not have botany in their curriculum because it has low patronage from students and even parents. Many institutions, including the public universities, have no taxonomists. Non-taxonomists teach the subject. Hence, students are taught by non-specialists. Owing to this situation, the students are half-baked, lacking the required language and technical knowledge of the discipline. There is therefore an urgent and increasing need for capacity building and infrastructural renewal if taxonomy in Nigeria is to keep up with the demand for up-to-date information on the indigenous species as much as possible. I have deliberately left out the mother and father of all problems, fund, which I comically name Fondia Kashi. Without funds, nothing can be achieved. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, in the last 1 hour or thereabout, I've been trying to justify this enormous responsibility given to me by my appointment as a professor of botany by the first and best university in Nigeria, the University of Ibadan. I have shown through my modest contributions to the discipline of plant taxonomy and systematics that taxonomists help give order to our world by organizing the plant world. I have shown the relevance of the plant taxonomists in the fulfillment of the God's intention for mankind to enjoy the diversity of his creation in the diverse plants of our world. I have introduced you to the use of some characters of taxonomic value, which can be used in the assessment of relationships among plants. I have emphasized the need to be vigilant and careful in the use of plants for medicine, particularly when the identification is in doubt. I have identified the roles of the herbarium and botanical gardens in the practice of taxonomy and conservation. I have informed you that the plant names are not conjured from heaven, but given according to rules and from the environment of the plant. In summary, I have taken you all through the journey of my 21 years in Nigeria's premier university, for which I am extremely grateful to God Almighty, and I hereby make the following recommendations. There is need for more taxonomists to be trained, and efforts must be made to complete the Flora of Nigeria project. I strongly recommend that there is an urgent need to upgrade and uplift the status of the Forest Herbarium Ibadan to the status of the National Herbarium. I urge all botanists and lovers of plants and nature in the corridors of power to ensure that FHI is given the kind of recognition accorded such herbaria in Kew, Paris, and even in Cameroon. I support Professor Adeyemi Egunyomi, who had advocated the establishment of a National Institute of Botany, which will oversee the collection, identification, and screening of plants. Moreover, departments of botany in our higher institutions should be maintained distinctly and adequately funded for floristic studies. It has become imperative to have a body of plant taxonomists to regulate and certify the plants used for food and health purposes. This may be incorporated into the statute of the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC. A passionate appeal is hereby made to editors of journals and of newspapers to insist on the certification of the names of plants by authors before their publication. This will save the public from attendant abuse of plant names and misinformation. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, from the foregoing, I join Soladoye to request that the Botanical Society of Nigeria, currently meeting in Sokoto, should declare a state of emergency in taxonomic activities in Nigeria. and raise an alarm for support from government in order to improve the status of taxonomy and herbarium development in Nigeria, and I hope my audience will support us. Acknowledgements. My gratitude goes first to the Almighty God, by whose mercy and favor I am what I am today. God has brought me this far in my journey through life, painstakingly carrying me on his shoulders when I was in distress and on the verge of losing hope. To him be all the glory, all adoration, now and forevermore. Amen. I thank my heavenly mother and queen, Mary, the mother of God, whose intercession for me has enabled me to obtain so great favors from God. I am very grateful to my late father, Mr. Samuel Ayodele Abegunde, my mother, Mrs. Eunice Adekunmi Ayodele Abegunde, who made so much effort and sacrifice for me to be educated and supported me in my career choice. Special thanks to my mentor and supervisor, Professor James Dele Olokudejo, FLS, and Professor Oti Ogundipe. I thank Dr. Oye Olatunji, who helped me develop my interest in plant microtechniques. My special gratitude goes to my very senior colleagues in both the Department of Botany and the Department of Microbiology. I thank especially Professor B.A. Osho, who has to leave everything that he is doing to leave Ado-Ekiti today to attend this inaugural lecture. May God bless you, sir. I thank Professor Adiyemi Egunyomi, who facilitated my coming to take up an appointment in this university when I least prepared for it. He had to do a lot of convincing after discovering the potential in me to make me accept the offer. He had been a pillar of support and encouragement since my appointment to this day. I have no regrets today heeding his advice. His input in this write-up is unquantifiable. May God bless you, sir. Professor Oluwole Oshonubi was the head of Botany and Microbiology who recommended me for employment in this university. He remains a father to me, though he does not agree to my thanking him, because he believes he should be the one grateful to me for having my beautiful sister, Mrs. Alice Mojisola Ochonubi, to marry. I'm highly indebted to my dean, Professor Abiodun Onilude, who has been an uncle and advisor, a confidant and a pillar of support. Dr. A.M. Salam is very well appreciated for his love and advice all the time. Professors S.O. Oyetade and Dr. A.A. Shobowale sacrificed their time for me to painstakingly edit this lecture. May God bless you, sirs. I appreciate the working relationship of my colleagues in the Faculty of Science. Let me most sincerely thank Dr. Mrs. Ugbogu, the curator of the Forest Herbarium Ibadan, FHI, and her staff, both present and past. I thank my colleagues in the departments of Botany and Microbiology, and those in the Faculty of Science, and indeed in this great university. The non-academic members of staff and the entire students of the Department of Botany are very much appreciated. The acting head of microbiology, Dr. Sherifat M. Wakil, is appreciated for her cooperation. I thank my research colleagues in and outside this university, my former and present PhD students, Dr. Mrs. Jemilat Ibrahim, Dr. Coleman Goji, Dr. Mrs. Grace Ugbabe. Ugbabe had to travel all the way from Abuja this morning to attend this lecture. Dr. Emmanuel Oyeniyi Shokefun, Mrs. Olasumbo Wahab, and indeed all my other students for their contributions to my success story and to this inaugural lecture. I appreciate my colleagues in Olabisi Onabanjo University, Agowe, University of Lagos, Akoka, Lagos, Babcock University, Illusion Lermont, Bowen University, Iwo, Lagos State University, Ojo. Many of them are represented in this gathering today. Thank you very much for coming. Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, and Oyo State College of Agriculture and Technology, Igbora. I thank them for their love during my stay with them. My appreciation goes to the Archbishop of Ibadan, His Grace, Most Reverend Dr. Leke Abegunrin, the clergy, religious, and lay faithful of the Archdiocese of Ibadan, and my parish priest, Reverend Father Francis Onunga, and the parishioners of St. Lawrence Catholic Church, Lasokun, for their love and prayers. Reverend Father Francis Onunga represents the Archbishop Abegunrin here today. I remember with nostalgia the late Very Reverend Monsignor Felix Adegbo and Very Reverend Monsignor Bank Silva. May their souls and those of the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. Amen. My worthy brothers from the Order of the Knights of St. Mulumba and the chaplain, Very Reverend Father Damian Ilodugwe are appreciated for their players. They are the men in black suit at the front of the audience. Thanks to the ladies of St. Mulumba also, members of the Young Men's League, the parish priest and his assistants, and indeed all parishioners of St. Rita Catholic Church, Arumeta, and members of Our Ladies of Sorrows Presidium of the Legion of Mary, Seat of Wisdom, University of Ibadan, are well appreciated. I am grateful to members of my old student association of Christ High School, Oleyo, Ibadan, members of the Unique Friends Club, Lagos, the families of Engineer Barnabas Ajibade, Messrs. Fadeon Adelekon, Austin Ekpope, James Igili, Dele Babalola, and Peter Ayebe, as well as Mrs. Babajide and Mrs. Titi Ayelari, the Oye Development Initiative, ODI, Ondo Ekiti Progressive Union, as well as the Akure Division Renewal. I thank you all. Uncle Pastor Bode Adegoke and Uncle Benga Adeyemi are especially appreciated. The brotherly affection of my president, Mr. Olumide Oribuloye, the former president of Akure National Union Ibadan, and Uncle Julius Fashibinu and Mr. Rufus Akomolafe cannot be quantified. I thank you, brothers. I thank Kabiesi, the Deji of Akure Kingdom, Oba Aladetoyinbo Adelusi, the Odundun II, and members of the Akure National Union Ibadan branch, Akure Agbeao. Amen. I thank my neighbors in the UICIS community, Agbofieti Akpata area. I cannot but appreciate the late C.R. Obatolu of the Cocoa Research Institute of Nigeria, CRIN, members of the Senior Staff Club, University of Ibadan, and the honorary members of the 42 Division Engineers Sapa Schoolroom are well appreciated. I am grateful to all members of the Community Fellowship who have been wonderful creating an enabling environment for positive thinking and interaction after every week's hard work in this university. To Dr. Bayo Oluwashanu, who has been a spiritual partner, a doctor, confidant, friend, and brother, I say thank you for your love, sir. My gratitude goes to the Academic Staff Union of Universities. The chairman of our branch is here present in our midst today. I thank the union for its struggles over the decades, ensuring the survival of public universities in Nigeria. I appreciate the support of the Chinese Academy of Sciences and the Third World Academy of Sciences for the Visiting Scholar Fellowship to Kunming and Beijing, China in 2006 and 2011, respectively. I thank my host, Professor Ju Jukun, Professor Fu Deshi, and my colleague, Dr. Yong Yang, and a host of others for making my stay memorable. I acknowledge with thanks the administration of the University of Ibadan for the provision of the Senate research grants which assisted me during my journey. I am eternally grateful to my parents-in-law, Chief and Mrs. T.A. Adetola, they are well seated here, and my brothers and sisters-in-law who have been a pillar of support throughout my journey. I cannot forget the contributions of Chief Olufalaye in my life. All members of the Abegunde JJ family of Okilisa Akure, Mr. Biodun Ogumola and late Mrs. Mary Afun from my maternal side are well appreciated. I thank my siblings, Mr. Akintade Ayodele, Mrs. Abike Adeoti, Mr. Olalere Ayodele, and Mr. Oluwagbemiga Ayodele. I love you all. Finally, I thank my children, my joy, my hope, my life, Olamide, Omolola, Oluwaseun and Oluwaseyi, for the understanding, love, and care, even when I was out of our home looking for plants. When I started this journey in the University of Ibadan, I was alone. I thank this woman, my heartthrob, whom I met in the days when parents were scared of giving their daughters to teachers, but who, with the full consent of our parents and the entire family, decided to join me and bear my pains, especially during our early days together. Mrs. Abiola Pinkwe Ayodele, I thank you for your love and steadfastness. Thank you for your understanding. Thank you for always being there for me. How can I repay the Lord for his goodness to me? The cup of salvation I will raise. I will call on the Lord's name. This is my story. This is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I am not resting my case because this is just the beginning. I thank you for your time. God bless you.